Welcome to a dramatic reading of my 6th grade Resident Evil fanfiction, The Survival. I will be doing this all in one take, so strap yourselves in and get ready for some of the worst writing you have maybe ever seen. As a side note, I got 94% on this as a school project, so that says a lot about the education system. Let's begin. Resident Evil, The Survival, Prologue. Find them, then kill them. Can you handle that? Wesker shouted at Ada. Yes, I'll be back in a couple of days, replied Ada. Good, whispered Wesker as Ada left the room. I have to kill innocent people, thought Ada. Well, they're not very innocent if they've seen Umbrella, which they have. The virus carriers have made their way into a small city nearby. Ada, don't forget to dispose of those 2 little girls, Wesker called. I won't, Ada shouted back. She still remembered that Katie and Sam had disgraced Wesker, but Ada couldn't do it. As she walked out of the building, Ada's arch-enemy Krauser gave her a nasty look. Ada decided that she would lead the people inside the city and let the virus carriers have a snack. Tricking them would be easy, but getting out would be hard. After Ada got to her apartment, she looked over the files again. Tom, Josh, Ashley, Shannon, these names meant nothing to her. She knew she would have to act like she cared about them, but that would be very hard. Ada fell fast asleep after putting the files away. Where am I? Ada questioned. In the heart of evil, a deep voice replied. If those girls die, you'll have a life of misery. Ada looked everywhere, but couldn't find out where the voice was coming from. So, if I keep Katie and Sam alive, I won't be miserable? Asked Ada. Yes, but be aware, I am watching your every move, it shouted. If you don't find them, then I will be forced to kill you. Suddenly, Ada arose, drenched in sweat. It was just a dream, she whispered. Ada couldn't get the voice out of her head. Only one thing to do, thought Ada. She had to keep the girls alive. But there was a flaw. She had not even the slightest idea where the girls were. Wesker, I have a problem, announced Ada. What? He demanded. I don't know where the girls are, replied Ada. Well, they're in Lowside, a town not very far from where you're going, Wesker told her. Then Ada left the room. After the conversation with Wesker, Ada went to the bar. The usual? Asked Frank the bartender. Not today, replied Ada. I'm feeling a little down. She couldn't believe that in 2 days she was leaving for the city. Well, I better head off, proclaimed Ada. With that final sentence, she left the bar and set off for her apartment. So many files, so little time, thought Ada. She had to remember every strength and weakness of 7 people. Ada fell asleep, but she wasn't even tired. When she awoke, it was 3 a.m. Oh, no! She shrieked. Only 3 hours till she had to leave. After quickly putting on her dress, Ada rushed out the door. As fast as she could, she jumped in her car, started it, and drove off. 10 minutes later, she arrived at Wesker's private airport. Ada, you're an hour late, Wesker shouted. Quickly, they got on the plane and sat down. Sorry, I fell asleep later than I should have, Ada replied. After a rough takeoff, they were in the air. Ready? Asked Wesker. Yes, Ada whispered. After putting on the parachute, Ada got ready to jump. We are over the target, the pilot pronounced. With the last word in his sentence, Ada jumped from the plane, heading towards her next mission that is soon to be accomplished. Chapter 1. No! 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 Screamed Ada as Tom was bitten by a virus carrier. She knew that once one of them bit you, you were as good as dead. Run towards the bank! She shrieked. Ada's feet pounded on the ground, her medium-length black hair whipping in the wind as she charged for the bank. When she reached the door, she heard everyone close behind. After they all shuffled through the door, Ada did a head count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh no? She questioned. Where's Josh? When she looked outside, she seen that he was fending off a virus carrier. Before Ada could call him, the virus carrier started biting his neck. Ada had started crying, and Ashley had gone over to cheer her up. When the virus carrier started banging on the door, Shannon ran away and didn't stop. Kenny had ran after her, but came back without her. After hearing her scream, they thought she had died. Ah! Screamed Shannon. She almost had a heart attack when the closet she opened had a virus carrier in it, but when she looked closely, she seen that it was already dead. When she crept into the employee lounge, she seen a gun on the counter. Thank God, she whispered to herself. Suddenly, there was a loud bang, and 4 virus carriers came crashing through the door across the room from where Shannon was standing. She was frozen in fear, and then a hand grabbed her shoulder. Come on, hurry, commanded Kenny as she grabbed Shannon's shoulder. Kenny grabbed her hand and brought her back to the main hall. When they looked at the door, they had seen that the virus carriers had cracked the glass. "Quick, follow me," shouted Ashley. When Ashley stopped, she was at the third floor in front of the safe. "Why are we here?" asked Stan rudely. "If we get all the food and drinks from every vending machine in the building," stated Ashley, "we could live in the safe." Suddenly they heard a deafening crash. "What was that?" shrieked Shannon. "Hurry, everyone in the safe!" shouted Ashley. "No way," Stan said rudely. When Ada heard the crash, she crept off while Stan and Ashley were fighting. She knew it wasn't safe, but she had to find out what made that noise. Ada was smart enough to know that the virus carriers couldn't make that loud a noise. Slowly creeping, she seen broken glass scattered the area. Strangely, no windows near her were broken. When she looked up, she froze in fear. There, right beside the broken skylight, was a 10-foot long and 10-foot wide spider. "Ah!" she shrieked as the spider jumped down. The spider turned towards Ada and started spraying her with silk. Before Ada could do anything, she was completely covered in silk except her head. "Where's Ada? I'm worried about her," asked Shannon. "How should I know?" stated Ashley. "We should try to find her," replied Kenny. "Fine," pronounced Ashley. "Everyone, stay here. We'll be back soon," commanded Ashley. Shannon was scared, and by the look on her face, Ashley could tell that. As they were walking, they came upon broken glass. When Ashley turned around, she seen Ada stuck against the wall with her head hanging limply. She tried to tear the white silky stuff off, but couldn't. "Shannon, go get the others and come right back," demanded Ashley. When Ada awoke, she was lying on the ground all sticky. Everyone was looming over her. "Could you please let me stand up?" asked Ada. Quickly, they all backed up. "Thank you," replied Ada. "Well, I guess there's no need to ask if you're okay," stated Stan. "How did you get stuck like that?" questioned Kenny. "I can't remember," pronounced Ada. We need a safer place to go," commanded Ashley. "How about the high school?" asked Kenny. "It has reinforced metal doors in the basement." After they decided to go there, they gathered some food and drinks. "Everyone ready to go?" questioned Kenny. After they got ready, they bolted out the front doors. They had been running for about 10 minutes and they were getting tired. Suddenly, a cold hand grabbed Ada's shoulder and that made her trip. "Help me!" shrieked Ada. Kenny ran back and grabbed Ada. "I think my ankle is broken," she stated. Quickly, he picked her up and started running. When they got inside, Kenny set Ada on a bench. "Shannon, go find a first aid kit," commanded Kenny. After everyone left to go do something, Ada slowly crept off. First, she set the lockdown timer for 5 minutes. The only way out is through the basement, thought Ada. But there is 100 virus carriers down there. "Huh? Where's Ada?" questioned Kenny. Just then, Shannon came running down the hall. "Guys, come look at this," she shouted. Quickly, Shannon led them to the office. On the security cameras, a man was locking up 4 people. "We have to find the basement," commanded Stan. Quickly, they ran to the basement door and pushed it open. As fast as they could, they followed the screams. After about 5 minutes, they heard the screams coming from the room in front of them. Kenny pushed open the door and walked in. After unlocking them, they noticed that Shannon wasn't anywhere to be seen. "We have to find my sister," demanded Kenny. Quickly, they ran out the door, shouting Shannon's name. They took a left turn, and then a right, and then another left, when boom! They ran into a big creature. "Run back!" shrieked Ashley. Quickly, they ran and hit the emergency shutter button, when the creature was stuck in that small area. "Good. Now we can go find Shannon and escape from this crazy city," stated Stan. Little did they know that they were being followed. Shannon had taken a wrong turn, and now she was lost. Suddenly, she seen a green blur pass in front of her. "Hello? Is anyone there?" she called. Again the blur came, but passed from behind her. "Kenny, is that you?" she asked. This time the blur circled her and then disappeared. "Kenny!" she shrieked. "Help me!" Just then the door in front creaked open and 4 people she had never met before appeared with her friends. They all started running to her when one of the new guys stopped and fell to the floor. "Jason!" screamed a girl. "Shannon, just so you know, this is Rachel, Kimmy, Jake, and what's left of Jason," Kenny stated. They all decided they had to leave, so they picked up a weapon and headed back to the elevator. "Where's the elevator?" questioned Kimmy as she stepped into the empty shaft. Suddenly they heard a loud screeching noise, and the elevator plumped down and crushed Kimmy. "Kimmy!" shrieked Rachel. "Oh," gasped Shannon. "Now how are we supposed to get out?" pounded Stan. "I guess we find another way," Jake called out. "Follow me." Ashley was worried. They had been walking through the damp halls for hours. "We're here," stated Jake as he motioned for them to climb a ladder. Kenny went first, then herself, then Stan, Rachel, Shannon, and finally Jake. "It's clear," shouted Kenny from above. They all climbed out into what looked like a church. They had searched the entire church, but found nothing of importance except a note to the minister of the church that read, "Dear Mr. Jacquet, we would like to build tunnels under your church so that in case of an emergency, the students at our school can get out safely. We know it's short notice, but we would be very pleased if we could. Think about it. It may save hundreds of lives. Your friend, Mr. Lockman. Well, that explains how we got here, Rachel told them. Suddenly there was a loud bang. What was that? Squeaked Shannon. Hurry, follow me, yelled Ashley. She led them up some stairs and they came to 3 doors. Which one? Asked Rachel. We'll have to split up, stated Stan. Shannon and Kenny will go together, Ashley and Jake, and me and Rachel. So they set off through the doors. Stan, I'm scared, whispered Rachel. It's okay, we'll be safe, stated Stan. As they slowly crept down a dark hall, they heard a loud bang, followed by more every second. Shh, he told Rachel. They quickly and quietly hid in a closet. Thump, thump, thump was all they heard for 20 minutes. I think it's safe, whispered Stan. Let's make a run for it, called Rachel. Okay, replied Stan. They quietly opened the closet door and charged for the door at the end of the hall. Stan ripped open the door, and what he seen made him push Rachel to the ground and run. Stan, help me, shrieked Rachel as the monster steeped through the doorframe. Rachel slowly stood up and started to step backwards. To her surprise, it leaned forward, then without warning, it charged towards her. Oomph! She blurted out of her mouth as the monster's shoulder rammed into her chest. Rachel could feel her conscience draining from her, so she crawled into the closet and shut the door. Kenny and Shannon had only found 2 first aid kits and 3 cans of protein drinks. They had searched through the entire room before heading back. Just before they left the room, they heard a scream. Then they waited until the rest of their friends came. Ashley was now annoyed of Jake because he tried to kiss her like 50 times. Jake, back off before I hurt you, demanded Ashley. Okay, just one quick kiss, please, begged Jake. No, shouted Ashley. Come on, you know you want to, he replied. I give up, stated Ashley. Close your eyes. When he closed his eyes, she slowly crept away. Ashley, where are you? Jake questioned loudly. Suddenly, there was a loud bang, and a black wall appeared in front of him. It raised its gigantic arm and smacked his head. Jake felt extreme pain when he was hit. Without thinking, he looked up, only to see 3 sharp claws falling towards his head. Ashley had seen the entire thing, Jake being smacked and his horrible death. She had been surprised when he died. She crept back to where they split up. Kenny, Shannon, Stan, thank God you're alive, she called. But where is Rachel? Stan quickly replied, I don't know. Rachel woke up hours later, but she wasn't in the closet. She woke up on a metal grid. Where am I? She thought to herself. When she looked beside her, she seen the other 4. Shaking them, she woke all of them up. Where are we? Asked Shannon. I don't know, but I know we have to get out, replied Rachel as there was an inhumane scream. And fast. They found a ladder that went up and down, so they split up again. Kenny and Stan went together, and the girls went together. As the guys set foot on the ladder, they heard another inhumane scream, this time louder and closer. Shannon, come here, please, called Kenny. Take this and be careful, he told her as he handed her a lighter and she stepped up the ladder. The girls had been hiding for a long time, and hadn't come out of the closet since they heard the inhumane scream through the door beside them. Come on, we have to hurry, Shannon whispered as she opened the door. They quickly crept down a hallway and opened a big metal door. Brr, it's cold in here, she told them. As they stepped into the big room, they seen a frozen train. We have to get the guys here, demanded Rachel. Come on, let's... Shannon's sentence was cut short by a deafening scream. Ashley, shrieked Rachel as she ran over to her body. I think she is still alive, stated Rachel, but not for long. They quickly lifted her onto her feet and helped her walk back to the ladder. Now, how are you going to get up the ladder? Questioned Shannon. With quick thinking, Rachel ascended the ladder, grabbed Ashley's arm as Shannon helped her up the ladder. When they all got up, the guys were just coming down. What happened to Ashley? Asked Kenny. We don't know, replied Rachel. We have to help her, demanded Kenny. Kenny, I'm sorry, but we can't. She will die anyway, replied Shannon softly. We can't just leave her here, sobbed Kenny. How about we use one of the first aid kits to help her as much as we can? Questioned Stan. Okay, said Kenny. They opened one of the kits and sprayed the first aid spray on her. Then they bandaged her waist where the cut was. Okay, she might live, only if someone carries her to the train, stated Shannon. I will, replied Kenny. Then he picked her up and started towards the train. They had a little bit of trouble getting Ashley down the ladder, but otherwise it was easy. When they got on the train, they set her down on the bench. Suddenly, they heard the inhumane scream, and then 3 humongous claws ripped through the metal wall and hit Stan in the head. Stan! Shrieked Rachel. They knew Stan was dead, so they decided to put his jacket on top of him. Whispered Ashley in pain. Shannon smashed open the control room door and started the train. Just before she went into the back, she seen a note and picked it up to read. Dear Mayor Johnson, July 25th, 2005. I would like to say that the escape point you wanted will be ready in 3 days. The helicopter will leave at 6 p.m. and the truck at 7 p.m. If, for any reason, some survivors follow you, they will be allowed on the truck or the helicopter. The detonation of the city will be at 6 a.m., July 30th. If you are late, we will leave without you. Our mission is to save as many survivors as possible. We will start a warning alarm and the clock tower bell will ring. Remember, the escape point is at the clock tower. Signed, Military Chief. Guys, I know a way to get out of the city, called Shannon as the train stopped. We have to go to the clock tower before 7 p.m., she demanded. She quickly opened the door and stepped outside. The group quickly got Ashley out of the train and started down the street. They found the clock tower easily, but the front gate was locked. They decided to go around to the back and check to see if a door was unlocked. To their surprise, one door was open, so they went in. Wow, Rachel whispered, amazed at what she saw. As they stepped towards the other door, they heard the inhumane scream. It followed us, shrieked Shannon. Let's hurry, shouted Kenny, still carrying Ashley. After they came through the door, they made their way to the front courtyard. When they got there, the helicopter and truck were there, but no people. Hold it right there, commanded a military guard. Say something, he shouted. Don't shoot, replied Kenny. Our friend is hurt. Can you help us, please? After a few seconds, they put down their guns and said, Okay, we'll help. They set Ashley on the ground and started to bandage her up better. Hours later, Ashley was standing up and walking. It's 6 p.m. Are you guys going to go in the helicopter or not? The military chief asked. We'll wait, replied Ashley. The truck is about to leave, announced the military chief. They all stepped into the back and sat down. As the truck started, they heard the inhumane scream again, and a 7-foot-tall monster with gray skin jumped down from the top of the clock tower. It had a girlish appearance, but looked as strong as an ox. Start the truck, shouted the chief. As soon as he said that, the truck was driving away at full speed. Suddenly, the creature charged at the truck. With tremendous force, it smashed against the truck and flipped it. No one knew how long they had been knocked out for, but they knew it was a while. My head hurts, Shannon called. Is everyone okay? Questioned Kenny. Everyone answered except Ashley. Ashley, are you okay? Kenny asked, crawling over to her. She's bleeding, Kenny stated, very badly. They picked her up and crawled out of the truck. When they got out, they seen the creature, and it was destroying the clock tower. Quickly, they started running the opposite way as the clock tower when they heard a creaking noise. The clock tower is going to fall, shrieked Rachel. As they were running away, Kenny tripped and Ashley fell from his arms. With a loud bang, the clock tower crushed Ashley. Luckily, Kenny dove out from under its falling path. Ashley, Kenny sobbed. Now she's gone, just like Tom, Josh, Jason, Kimmy, Ada, and Jake. Kenny sat there crying for hours until he got enough courage to continue. Hurry on top of the skyscraper, shouted Rachel. As fast as they could, they charged to the top, breaking down every door in their path. As soon as they opened the roof door, the creature screamed. When Rachel closed the roof access door with Shannon and Kenny still in the building, the creature jumped up from the ground. Slowly backing away, Rachel had the choice of jumping off the building or charging at the creature. She chose jumping off the building. When she jumped off, she grabbed the edge of a window. The creature jumped down after her, but it fell down the entire way and landed on its head. With all her strength, she pulled herself back up to the roof. Rachel, you're all right, Shannon shouted in joy. We have to find a way out of this city soon, stated Rachel. After a while, they found a car with the keys still in it. As they were driving, they turned on the radio and heard that they had 24 hours to escape before the city was destroyed. Suddenly, someone jumped out in front of them. Kenny, who was driving, slammed on the brakes. After carefully looking, they saw it was a virus carrier, so he stepped on the gas and ran it over. Come on, go faster. We only have 24 hours left, shouted Rachel. As they sped up, something landed on the roof. What was? Shannon's sentence was silenced by the inhuman screech. The sound of screeching metal was the last thing that Shannon heard. Shannon! Shannon, wake up! Shouted Kenny. It was no use. Shannon wouldn't wake up. Kenny picked her up and carried her to the hospital 3 blocks away. Surprisingly, there was lots of medical supplies that were not ruined. "Rrrr!" screamed Kenny as he threw bottle after bottle of medicine on the floor. Looking for this? A deep voice said. When Kenny turned around, he saw a man in a black trench coat holding a bottle of hemostatic medicine. You can only have it if you do me a favor, the man stated. What do you want us to do? Asked Rachel. Retrieve the golden key that has been lost somewhere in the building, he replied. Okay, Rachel agreed. The key was not on the 1st or 2nd floor, so they only had to search the 3rd floor and the basement. They searched and searched on the 3rd floor, but they did not find the key. The only place left to look was the basement. After they made their way to the basement, They heard loud bangs. "Come on, let's see what it is," Kenny called. Slowly creeping, they made their way to a door. When Kenny ripped open the door, Ada came running in. "Close the door," demanded Ada. "You okay?" asked Rachel. "Yeah, but if we don't hurry, none of us will be," stared Ada. "Oh, I found a key in that storage room." "Come on, follow me," commanded Kenny. "Here's your key," Kenny said, handing the man the key. "Here's your medicine," replied the man. "You can call me Trent. I was ordered to help you escape." After he said that, he walked away. "Who is that?" questioned Rachel. "I don't know, but we better help Shannon," stated Kenny. "Oh no!" shrieked Rachel. "We only have 14 hours left." As fast as they could, they broke open the roof door. "Ada, you're okay," Shannon whispered. "Oh no, it can't be," screamed Rachel. "No!" As she said that, she ran out on the roof and looked back and called, "Goodbye." Kenny shouted, "Rachel, no!" and he ran towards her. With all his strength, he pulled Rachel back to the roof. Rachel would have died, but Kenny saved her. "What did you see?" asked Kenny. "Gurgen Fleemer Slaviak," Rachel whispered. "Rachel, what did you see?" shouted Kenny. "Gurgen Fleemer Slaviak," Rachel screamed in his ear. "What does that mean?" questioned Shannon. "I know. I heard a man whisper that when I was in Spain," Ada replied. "It means kill all survivors." Just then Rachel stood up and jumped off the building. "She must have been infected with the Las Plagas," stated Ada. "It's a parasite that turns good into evil." After they stood up, Shannon questioned, "Then why did she jump off the building?" As they were walking to the door, they heard a helicopter. They ran out to the center of the roof and started shouting. "Perfect," Wesker whispered as 3 people quickly made their way into the helicopter. He hadn't expected anyone to live this long, but things aren't always as planned. Just then he recognized one of the girls. "Ada?" he shouted. "I must find out where that copter is going." With a loud click, he turned on the radio transmission and said, "Copper 221, where are you heading?" The pilot answered, "All survivors are taken to the elementary school." After the transmission, he grabbed his gun and set off. Wesker thought about how long it would take to get to the school. Suddenly, a large object slammed into his body. When he stood up, he seen the hunter, a large man-like amphibian. The creature slashed Wesker's face 3 times with its gigantic claws. Wesker knew he wasn't going to live long, so he shrieked Ada's name, then let the creature have a snack. "Wow, big place," called Ada as she looked around. Although they had been in the school for about 5 minutes, it seemed like 5 years. Shannon had been looking at the statues that were against the wall when she noticed a funny button. Slowly she pushed it, and the wall beside her slid up. Suddenly, they heard a loud, maniacal laughter, and a man, wearing a black mask, knocked everyone out and dragged them into a secret room. Before Ada was knocked out, she'd seen a TH and an IN on his name tag. Hours later, Ada, Kenny, and 2 other survivors bashed open the back door and used a syringe with a cure in it. Suddenly, 10 virus carriers shuffled around a corner and started towards a small group. "Quick, the skyscraper!" shouted Ada. Kenny bashed open the door and ran towards the stairs. "Hurry, everyone up!" he commanded. After about 2 minutes, they reached the top of the building. "Towards the ladder," Rebecca said as she took deep breaths. As fast as they could, they bolted towards the door. After Ada and Rebecca were halfway down, Chris started down. Boom! The virus carriers broke open the door. Kenny quickly jumped on the ladder. Suddenly, the ladder broke and started falling. Luckily, it landed in the city's lake. Slowly, they swam to shore, enjoying being cooled off by the water. After they got out, they started walking towards the airport. About half an hour later, they seen the airport in the distance. Quickly, they ran towards it and broke open a door. "Anyone know how to fly a plane?" asked Ada. "First, let's find a plane," replied Chris. Quickly, they ran to the back and found an airplane. After they got in, they saw 10 people in a corner, and they seemed to be knocked out. A couple of minutes later, they all awoke. "Do you guys need to fly away from the city?" one of the men asked. "Yes, we do," replied Ada. As fast as the man could, he started the plane and started flying away. After introducing each other, they sat back and relaxed. Suddenly, the plane jerked down and started to nosedive down into a dreary forest. Ada jumped out of the plane just before it hit the ground, and she landed in a tree. She heard a dog howling and jumped to the next tree. After jumping past 5 trees, she spotted a town in the distance. Quickly, she jumped from the tree and started running towards the town. Ada found an open manhole and climbed down it. Slowly, she crept down the tunnel when she started hearing voices. Suddenly, 2 little girls came around a corner and bumped into her. "Ah!" shrieked one of the girls as she fell into the sewage. "It's okay, I won't hurt you," replied Ada as she surveyed their clothes. Surprisingly, they were in pajamas. "My name is Ada," she stated. "Hi, I'm Katie, and this is Lolly," she replied. They continued down the tunnel, talking about the situations they had been through. "There's one thing I remember about the man," stated Ada. "Before he knocked me out, I saw part of his name tag. The first letters were TH, and the last were IN. Lolly's face awed in surprise. "Fendrin," she whispered. "Who?" asked Ada. "Fendrin. He's the one who's after us," replied Lolly. Just then they seen a light and hurried over, only to find another manhole. Ada climbed up the ladder first, and as soon as she poked her head up, Fendrin, who had been waiting there, picked her up by the head and threw her into a light post, knocking her out. Ada awoke a few minutes later and seen Katie shaking her. Huh? What?" Ada asked. She realized Katie had asked if she was okay. "Yeah, I'm all right," Ada replied. Lolly bent over and helped Ada up. "Thanks. Now I have some business to take care of," Ada called to them as she casually walked away. Katie shouted something, but Ada didn't hear her. Ada swore she heard someone behind her, but when she turned around, there was nothing. Just then, she thought of an idea. She turned a corner and stopped. After waiting 3 seconds, she jumped out from behind the corner, only to see Katie and Lolly. "Go home, you two," commanded Ada. "We can't," cried Katie. "Our parents are dead." The only thing to do was let them come with her. "Come on," sighed Ada. Katie and Lolly smiled happily. They had been walking for at least an hour when they seen a clothing store. "Let's go get some clean clothes," Ada told them. Once inside, they each chose some clothes, and Ada paid for them. After putting them on in an alley, they continued down the street. "Perfect, let's go get some food," said Ada as she pointed at a McDonald's. After eating, they were walking down an alley when something grabbed Ada and pulled her into a building. Katie and Lolly started running after her. Suddenly, a big metal door closed, and Ada couldn't see Katie or Lolly. "Let me go!" screamed Ada. She got a quick glance and seen it was Fendrin. He pulled her into a small room with 2 doors. There was no furniture, though. Fendrin threw a black bodysuit on top of Ada. "Put it on," demanded Fendrin. "What if I don't?" questioned Ada. "Your life will end quicker if you don't," Fendrin replied. "Fine," Ada whispered. After she put it on, Fendrin pushed her through the other door. Ada only seen an open doorway. As she entered it, she heard a loud, deep scream. She quickly dove behind a big crate. Time seemed to slow down as she heard deep thumps getting closer. With a burst of speed, she charged out from behind the crate and dove under the creature's legs. Her fear drained from her when she seen the monster. "Kenny?" she whispered. The only difference was where Kenny's arms were, there were now 2 long tentacles, and his skin was purple. Suddenly, a tentacle plunged toward Ada. Ada awoke lying on a cold cement floor. Slowly she stood up and shuffled through the open doorway. She noticed a chair, so she decided to sit down. Suddenly she couldn't move. A man started to laugh. Then Fendrin walked in front of her and pulled a switch. Bright lights filled the room, and Fendrin rolled a large TV in front of Ada. With a loud bang, Katie and Lolly burst through the door. "Ada!" shrieked Katie. Well, called Fendrin. "Look who came running back." He walked behind Ada and grabbed her throat. "Come any closer and she dies," pronounced Fendrin. Just then a phone rang, and Fendrin handed it to Ada. "Hello?" asked Ada. "Ada," the voice said. "It's you! You are alive!" Ada realized it was Rebecca on the phone. Fendrin walked over and turned on the TV. "Where are you?" asked Rebecca. "I don't know," replied Ada. When Ada looked at the TV, she seen 6 people. Strangely, they looked just like the other 6 people. Suddenly the phone was hung up, and Fendrin dialed some numbers. "Hello," the person said. "Put Rebecca back on the phone," demanded Fendrin. Fendrin told Rebecca where Ada was and how to get there. After that, he left the building. But before he left, he set the self-destruct system. "In a few short hours, that building will be gone," he whispered to himself. Quickly, he ran to another building nearby. "Katie, Lolly, you have to go get help," demanded Ada. "Where?" they asked. "It's the middle of the night." Suddenly, a person on the TV died. That person looked like Chris. "Give me the phone," commanded Ada. Lolly grabbed the phone and threw it to Ada. Ada dialed some numbers and shouted, "Rebecca, is Chris okay?" She could hear panting. "No, he's dead," Rebecca shouted. Ada could see Jesse, Eric, and Robert being lifted into the sky by an invisible force. Rebecca bashed open the door and made sure that Jessica was with her. "Look, light," whispered Jessica. Her black hair was dripping with sweat. Her best blue jeans now had lots of holes, and her shirt was now mangled. Jessica seen Rebecca's red bandana soaked in sweat, and her clothes, although dry, were ripped. They headed towards the light and stopped at the door. Judging by her eyes, Jessica could see Rebecca's fear, and feel it too. Together, they pushed open the door, hoping that Ada was inside. "I hope they find us soon," stated Lolly. "I'm getting really bored." Katie and Lolly went back and looked through the other doors. Luckily, they found a big jug of clean water and some pickled onions. Suddenly, the door started to creak open. Lolly and Katie hid behind the water jug. Rebecca and Jessica came rushing in. "Do you know them?" asked Katie. "Yes, that's Jessica and Rebecca," replied Ada. "Oh, hi," said Katie. "Hi," they answered. "Well, it's good that you're all getting along, but I'm still strapped in a chair," pronounced Ada. "Oh, right," answered Rebecca. "What do you think we should do?" she asked. "There's probably a hidden switch on the wall somewhere," stated Lolly. So they started searching the walls. "I think I found something," cried Jessica. Ada squinted to see what it was. Suddenly, her waist was free. "I found the switch," shouted Jessica. "Okay, good. Now help me untie my legs." Rebecca ran over and quickly untied Ada's legs. They found their way outside and ran to the nearest parking lot. "Quick, find an unlocked car," shouted Katie and Lolly. Ada ran over to a light blue SUV, and it was unlocked. "Everyone, over here," she shouted. They all came bolting towards the car. "Are the keys in it?" asked Lolly. "Under the pedal," replied Katie. Ada jammed the keys in the ignition and started to drive off. Suddenly they heard a boom, and the building they were just in exploded. Since they were all tired, Katie, Lolly, Rebecca, and Jessica had fallen asleep. Ada drove to the nearby city Domelot. "Wake up," whispered Ada as she shook Jessica and Rebecca. Ada decided it would be best for Katie and Lolly to sleep a while longer. They walked to the nearest house and rang the doorbell. "Hello, is anyone there?" Ada called. "Go back to Katie and Lolly," she whispered to Jessica and Rebecca. The girls ran back to the van. Ada knocked on the door again. To her surprise, it opened. "Hello, is anyone there?" she asked again as she slowly stepped into the house. It was dark and musty, with deep orange couches. The rug was a khaki yellow, and it looked like it hadn't been used in years. Ada could smell something like propane, but decided to continue on anyways. One look around the corner changed her mind. There was a big pile of gas canisters lying at the end of the hall. Suddenly, Thendrin stepped out of the room to the right. "I had a feeling you'd be here," he shouted at her. Thendrin went back into the room and dragged Jessica out. "Let me go!" she screamed. "What are you doing?" shrieked Ada as Thendrin threw Jessica into the canisters. He then took a lighter, lit it, and threw it on top of Jessica. With a loud whoosh, Jessica was engulfed in flames. Ada bolted towards Thendrin with tremendous speed and tackled him. She picked him up and threw him into the wall, then kicked his head. "Why are you doing this?" questioned Ada sadly. "I want the world to bow down to me," Thendrin replied with a smirk. "So you're the one who released the monsters," she replied. "Monsters?" he whispered. Slowly she backed away, and before she left, she kicked Thendrin in the jaw. As Ada was walking to the door, she heard tires screeching. "Katie, Lolly, where are you?" shrieked Ada. "Not again," pleaded Ada. Suddenly, the virus carriers closed in on her. With quick thinking, she jumped and did a spinning kick, knocking 4 of the 8 virus carriers down. She started running down the road when all of a sudden she was knocked to the ground. Ada awoke inside some place she didn't recognize. Just then she realized she was in the SUV. "Good morning, Ada," Katie whispered. Suddenly, the vehicle swerved and drove off a bridge. It plunged into the ocean. "Is everyone okay?" coughed Ada. "Yeah," they replied. Ada pushed on the door, but it wouldn't open. Water quickly filled the SUV. Everyone took a deep breath as the last bit of air left the SUV. Quickly, Ada searched for a hammer. "Yes," Ada thought happily as she picked up a wrench. She slammed it against the window. She motioned the girls to come. They all made their way out of the SUV and up the surface. After they got to dry land, they started walking towards the tallest building in the city. "You guys stay out here while I look for a phone," Ada told them. "Good luck," shouted Rebecca as Ada crept into the building. It was dark, very dark. Ada could barely see 3 feet in front of her. Slowly and quietly, she crept through each room. Suddenly, the lights turned on, and 4 men with guns surrounded Ada. With quick thinking, Ada slid and tripped one of the men. She bolted towards another man, jumped and kicked his head, backflipped and landed on the 3rd man. The last man quickly ran away. Casually, Ada walked to the elevators. When the elevator got to the top floor, the door wouldn't open. Suddenly, the elevator jerked. The doors slowly started to open, and just as Ada climbed out, the elevator plummeted down the shaft. Quickly, she climbed to the roof. She never told the others that she kept a radio hidden on her. Ada grabbed the radio and pressed the button. "Krauser, come in," she called. "Yes, Ada," answered Krauser. "I need a ride," said Ada. "Where are you?" replied Krauser. "I'm on top of the biggest building in Domelot," she replied. "I'm on my way." Then Ada put the radio away. Krauser arrived after 5 minutes later. Ada climbed in the helicopter and the pilot flew away. "Where to, Ada?" asked Krauser. "Out of this nightmare," Ada replied. A few minutes later, Ada fell fast asleep. When Ada woke up, she felt terrible for leaving her friends behind. "Go back to where you picked me up," demanded Ada. When they got back there, Ada dropped a big crate filled with food, water, and blankets on the ground near Katie, Lolly, and Rebecca. Then Ada leaned out the side of the helicopter and started waving. She'd seen them waving back. Suddenly, Thendrin jumped out from behind the crate. Quickly, Ada grabbed the heaviest item on board, which happened to be a bowling ball, and threw it towards Thendrin. Just as he picked up Lolly, the bowling ball struck his head. A couple of minutes later, Ada got curious. "Krauser, where are you taking me?" she asked. "A little place I like," he replied with a smirk. Ada didn't like this, but she stayed quiet. 10 minutes later, the helicopter landed near a big factory. Krauser pushed Ada out of the helicopter, and she landed on her face. He kept pushing her till she was in the factory. "I want to see who's better," stated Krauser. "You're kidding, right?" replied Ada. She could tell by the look on his face he wasn't. Quickly, Krauser charged towards Ada, and he body-slammed her into a crate. He picked up Ada by the throat and kicked her in the stomach. Ada knew she was stronger, so she stood up and did a spinning kick. Her foot slammed into his cheek. When he stood up, she ran towards him, jumped, did a backflip, kicked his head, then landed on her feet. She slowly finished him off with a jumping, spinning kick and a 1-2 punch. Slowly, she walked out of the factory and started towards the helicopter. She jumped in the helicopter and motioned for the pilot to take off. Since she was very tired, she quickly fell asleep. When she awoke, she was inside her apartment on her couch. Having no idea how she got there, she changed to her best red dress and started making breakfast. 3 years later. Ada looked at herself in the mirror. Slowly, she took some scissors and started cutting her hair. Within moments, her hair was up to her ears. After staring at herself in the mirror for an hour, she put on her best red dress and walked out the door. Slowly, she walked toward Custaway Park and stopped at the bench area. She took out some bird seeds and started feeding the birds. When she seen Katie, Lolly, and Rebecca on the other side of the lake, she put the seeds away. When they walked by, Ada smiled at Katie, and Katie smiled back before going to talk to Lolly. Ada had hoped they wouldn't have any more troubles for the rest of their lives. She stood up and started walking back home, knowing that she would have plenty more missions ahead of her. When she arrived at home, she watched some TV and then went to bed. Epilogue. Ada believed that Katie and Lolly were happy, but she had to truly find out. She decided to call an old friend to help her. After picking up the phone, she dialed some numbers. "Hello, Leon, is this you?" asked Ada. "Ada?" he replied. "Listen, I need you to stop by my house later today," she stated. A few hours later, Leon came by her house. They talked for hours and decided that they never wanted to be apart for very long. In the next few days, Ada and Leon made a plan to see Katie and Lolly again. For Leon, it would be the first time. Together, they followed them around to see what they did on a daily basis. After a month, they figured out what Katie, Lolly, and Rebecca do each and every day. "Now, we just have to figure out a way to see them," stated Ada. They decided they would lead a madman into their house, then beat him up just as they got home. Making it official, they now had to find a madman bent on revenge. Ada knew it wouldn't be nice, but it was the only way. After finding a madman, they planned everything to happen at a certain time. The end. Moving on. The Message, a short sequel to The Survival/Runaway. "Oh no!" shouted Rebecca. "It's all happening over again." With full speed, she charged towards two little girls. "Katie, Lolly, you have to come with me," commanded Rebecca. Slowly, they turned around, but they weren't normal. Most of Katie's face was covered in dry blood, and Lolly was missing an eye and an ear. "It can't be," whispered Rebecca. "Stay away!" Rebecca turned around and ran. She didn't stop until she locked herself in a factory. When she turned around, she came face to face with 12 virus carriers. They closed in on her and all started biting her. "Ah!" she shrieked. "Rebecca, are you okay?" whispered Katie as she and Lolly shook Rebecca. Suddenly she arose, drenched in sweat. "We heard you screaming. Are you okay?" asked Lolly. "It was just a bad dream," replied Rebecca. "Okay," Katie said. Then Katie and Lolly went back to bed. Rebecca awoke at 6 a.m. only to hear the blender. Slowly she got out of bed and shuffled to the kitchen. "Katie, it's 6 a.m. Why are you making breakfast so early?" asked Rebecca. "I had a bad dream and couldn't go back to sleep," replied Katie. Katie sat down and ate her pancakes, bacon, eggs, and drank her fruit smoothie. After that, she grabbed her backpack and left for school. Lolly awoke at 7:48. She got dressed, ran into the kitchen, grabbed a piece of toast, and then started off for school. While walking, she watched each car pass her. Suddenly, a blue car passed her, but the people weren't normal. Their skin was gray, and their mouths were down to their lower chest. "Ah!" she shrieked and then fainted. "Lolly, wake up!" whispered Katy. Slowly Lolly opened her eyes. "Where am I?" asked Lolly. "You're in the General Hospital," replied Rebecca. "How did I get here?" Lolly questioned. "A man found you lying on the ground," Katy responded. "Well, now that you're okay, we can go home," stated Rebecca. When they got home they saw the door wide open. "That must be Fendron's brother again," whispered Rebecca. As they stepped into the room they heard footsteps coming from the kitchen. From the sound they could tell it was more than one person. Suddenly a man flew out of the kitchen and landed on his neck. "Hello, who's there?" shouted Katy. Slowly a woman wearing a red dress stepped out of the kitchen. "Who are you?" demanded Rebecca. "Don't you recognize me?" the woman replied as she turned on the lights. "Could it be?" thought Lolly. "Could it really be Ada?" "Ada?" asked Lolly. "Is that you?" All of a sudden a man stepped behind her. "I'm glad you remember me, Lolly," Ada called excitedly. "This is my boyfriend Leon," she stated. After they talked for 3 hours, Ada told them, "It was nice catching up, but me and Leon have to go." Katy seemed really sad after Ada said that. "Go where?" Katy asked. "I don't know, but I might not come back," replied Ada. "What?" shrieked Katy. "You have to come back." "I'm sorry, but there's nothing I can do about it," Ada responded. Then Katy ran to her room and slammed the door. Leon and Ada left a couple minutes later. "Leon, I feel bad about Katy," Ada stated. "It was the only way we could tell her what was happening," replied Leon. Ada and Leon had to go on their next mission very soon. Katy would find a way to go with Ada and Leon, even if it meant her life. As she packed up, she watched them walk into the building across the street. The end. And that ends my grade 6 Resident Evil fan fiction. If you made it this far, why? But also thank you.